Is D&D evil? We talk about that and more. In the spirit of Halloween, we dress up. What?
Spirit of Halloween. We're not sponsored.
Never sponsored by puns, Charles. Anyway, because Halloween is near, we obviously dressed up. I am Genu from K-Pop Demon Hunters, and Charles is.
Yes. Let us know in the comments what you think I am. This goes together with this.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the end of the video. My name's Frank, GM of 10 years, and with me is Charles.
Ooh.
But Halloween's a very interesting thing, and this comes from a topic in our Discord of people believing D&D is demonic. And so we're going to talk about that and kind of the wider scope that comes from it.
Before we get into that, why don't you like, subscribe, and join our Discord?
And we want to give a special shout out to people who support us either via Patreon or YouTube. Today's sponsor is Linchester. Thank you so much for your support. Okay, so we're going to be talking about this thing because, again, it came up in our Discord. But fair warning for everybody involved. We will be talking about things we normally don't talk about. So religion, probably a little bit of politics, and some other stuff. We ask that you be polite in the comments.
Keep it civil.
Do not attack anyone's beliefs, even if people still believe that D&D is satanic, even after we have this entire video. Do not attack anyone's beliefs. We will delete those comments immediately. So yeah, but we're going to talk about it because, spoiler alert, it's kind of somewhat precedent to Charles and I's lives. Just a little bit, because we do you have anybody you know who still believes this?
Again, everyone that would have thought that, I either don't have any contact with anymore, or they're no longer with us.
I had somebody I worked with like a few years ago who was like, well, you know, D&D is demonic. I'm like, no, it's not. And I tried to give him some explanations to it. So this video is for people who are curious about D&D, but they've heard is it demonic, stuff like that. Or it's also for the people who are like, I have friends who I want to convince, no, it's not. This is who you can send it to.
Yeah.
And if this isn't your jam, thank you for joining us anyway. But now we're going to start dancing around it, and we're going to use the term, because now I think it's been long enough in the video that we can use the term Satanic Panic.
So what is the Satanic Panic, as if I didn't know or grew up around it?
Yeah, so it's the idea that people use something connected to Satanism, demonic occult activity, and it means that thing is then for evil, and you do these ritualistic things to appease Satan, and it's always against Christianity. It's always bad. This is not a new thing, but it is very specific to a lot of stuff.
So what does this all have to do with tabletop role-playing games?
Yeah, so people think D&D specifically is demonic. Now, it does have demons and devils, right? As monsters you fight. Let me make sure that that's known. Monsters you fight. You could technically play as them, but like they're not that. We'll get into it.
There's a lot of nuances to this.
But that's the idea, is that there's a lot of nuance. And instead of actually having the nuance, there's a lot of people in the Christian community that kind of just say, no, actually, there is no nuance. It's evil. Don't do it. If you do it, you're bad. If you are like, well, I want to play RPGs, but I'm still not sure about fantasy or D&D, you can play other RPGs that are completely different things, right?
Believe it or not, our entire channel is based around the existence of other tabletop role-playing games.
And if you really like the D&D system but want to play it in a different theme, you should check out our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Spy Game, Spy Master's Toolkit.
Do you like D&D 5e but hate all that fantasy stuff?
That's right. Instead, you could be spies doing cool spy stuff.
The Spy Master Toolkit offers 16 new archetypes, feats, and hacking 2.0.
So if you want to take on secret missions and covert operations in a clandestine world, pick up Spy Master's Toolkit on Kickstarter right now. Charles, duty calls. We gotta go. Back to the video.
All right, so let's start with the history of this. So where did this all come about?
So D&D was created by Gary Gygax. I know what you're thinking. Frank, we're talking about the Satanic Panic history. This is important. Gary Gygax is a self-proclaimed Christian. Mm-hmm. This is going to be a key point in all of this that we're coming from. Yeah, so if you think, oh no, this was made by Satanists and this and that, it was not. It was made by one guy who's a Christian. And where did he get these ideas from? Let's be honest, Tolkien, who's also a Christian. So a lot of fantasy and D&D can come from that stuff. So again, I'd like to preface with that as we get into it. This started because in the 1980s, James Dallas Egbert III, a 16-year-old who was in college, which is already fascinating.
Yeah, it says, on the notes, it says Michigan State University.
Yeah, he was a 16-year-old who was able to get in there really quickly. Reportedly, he had some mental health issues, but he unfortunately took his own life down in the tunnels of Michigan State. Where this all comes from is this idea that he was in the tunnels doing some demonic activity, and that's what caused him to kill himself, which is not true. Most likely it was just mental illness, unfortunately, going wrong. And D&D was most likely an outlet for him but obviously not one that would cause him to take his own life. Now, unfortunately, this was not the only case. There were several other people who took their own lives or even took someone else's life and their own life. We could probably attribute a lot of that to mental illness more than D&D, but that's not how people like to do it. So there's a book that came out that was eventually made into a movie called Mazes and Monsters. Mm-hmm. And if you know anything about it, you know it's one of Tom Hanks' first roles, and he is a terrible actor in it. Here's a clip.
I have spells. I'm going to fly.
You don't have enough points. I am the maze controller.
Maze control?
Yes. And I have absolute authority in this game.
Game?
Game.
TJ, what am I doing here?
I need to see this movie right now.
No, you do not. It's really bad because every single character in the movie loses sight of reality and believes that they're the fictional characters they're portraying. And so, like, they're saying that that's the problem with RPGs and D&D in general is maybe it's not satanic, but people will lose sight of what really is reality, right? So this is the less occult version of satanic panic. So we add that stuff in to also some other adults who just... They did their own research is the best way to phrase it, but there is a common perception of people who do their own research and then come to conclusions, but necessarily those conclusions aren't the wisest ones to come to. So there's a woman who starts this organization called Bothered About D&D. Yes, that spells bad.
With an extra D.
Yeah, well, just like mad. Or
Moms Against Drunk Driving, yeah.
Right, exactly.
That one makes sense.
She started this because she did her research and proved that Dungeons & Dragons is a problem, evil, satanic. We also have a lot of preachers around the time who are promoting that. Basically, it keeps cascading. And so if you've never heard of Dungeons & Dragons, and your first instance of this is people saying, no, it's problematic, no, it's bad for your kids, then yeah, you're more likely to listen to them, even if those people are wrong. Spoiler alert, those people are wrong. This is the brief history. There's a lot of videos that go even further into like more specifics about this stuff. But we wanted to give an understanding of like, you can kind of see where people come from, right? Yeah. This brand new thing comes out. Your kids are playing it. It does feature some like grotesque art. It does have devils and demons into it. And then if you try to do your own research, you can see how it leads to, well, a kid killed himself who played Dungeons & Dragons. Yeah. And it's like, well, that's not true. Like those things happen, but that doesn't mean that it's an equivalency.
It's one of those causation versus correlation type arguments. You know, there are unfortunate things that happen due to, again, we're aware that mental illness is a thing. It happens to lots of people. It's a scapegoat, basically. They use it as a scapegoat because it's when you find something to blame, it makes it make more sense to you, you know?
Instead of having to understand that maybe your kids are just enjoying something that you don't understand and you having to figure out like what the means of that is, it's easier to just be like, well, no, that thing's problematic.
Probably,
yeah. And that brings us into the whole why. This is a thing that's common. Like Charles and I were talking about it. It's like, this has happened constantly. Not even just parents being like, I don't understand what my kids are doing, therefore it's bad. Literally specifically saying that a new thing is demonic or satanic. Rock and roll, rap music,
Harry Potter,
Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!
Furbies were considered demonic. I remember that when they came out because they could talk.
I was too young, so I just had a Furby.
See, our Furby was called a Teddy Ruxpin.
Oh, that's funny.
So, and what it is, he had a little cassette tape you could put inside his
and you could play the tapes backwards.
Well, you just play the tapes or whatever, but you could put like AC/DC in there and he would just sing all the AC/DC then. But like, it wasn't anything crazy. It's just any new trend that comes out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this, you know, it's got to be evil because my kids were way too into it or something.
Or in my favorite case of the satanic panic going too far is there's a preschool in Southern California. Like a kid had a nightmare. The mom thought something happened. They assumed it was sexual assault. And then the kids started saying like, well, we were taken to the tunnels and there was rabbit carcasses down there and we were doing demonic things and this and that. And then the court case went for 4 years. 4 years. Only for it to be dropped because there was no evidence of any of that happening. Fun fact, Charles, people still believe that this actually happened. And they're like, well, we found the tunnels and we found where the carcasses were and this and that. Again, we're not going to say if you believe that or not, you're wrong. But if one person finds a tunnel versus hundreds of people looking into the evidence and being able to research and fact check and constantly check into it, I'm going to trust the 100 plus people over like the handful of people who've done their own research.
Yeah, it's always best to trust the people who have done the legwork and who are arguably more professional in their fields of like investigations and investigative journalism type stuff.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying people don't lie about stuff, but
No, absolutely. Because if you're not Christian, you're like, well, yeah, all of that's fake. So like, of course it's not real. But we'll get into that later in the video of like, well, there's still some concerning things and stuff like that.
let's talk about why it's considered demonic or evil.
Yeah, it's pretty much the art. Like there's demons in it, right? It doesn't go as far as Magic the Gathering did, where it literally had pentagrams and stuff like that.
Right.
Or how metal music, which was considered demonic and satanic, right? And then they doubled down on it by using that imagery.
You know, it's funny. The shirt that I'm wearing underneath this, shirt that I'm wearing beneath this is a band called Oh Sleeper. Someone's made a comment about it before. The front man of the band is definitely Christian. I think there's a handful of people Christian in the band. Not everyone is, but like their songs, especially their first like 2 or 3 albums, are heavily
Right.
religious and focusing on the duality of Satan and God type thing. So it's funny that people think that style of music can be evil. I'm like, words are evil. Things you say and do are evil. Music inherently is not evil. I'm sorry.
And I completely understand people who are not Christian who are like, we're told we're satanic. Fine, we'll double down on that.
Right.
And then now you actually have like satanic imagery and words about that. And now suddenly I'm like, okay, now I'm a little more concerned. I can understand when we get to a certain point of like, okay, why you're hesitant. It's the new thing that comes out immediately blaming it as satanic that I'm not a fan of.
Again, it's just a scapegoat. It's just an easy way to say something's wrong. I don't know what to blame. It's this thing. It's that one common
It's
factor.
shooter games. It's this or that. Yeah.
It's violent video games. It's rap music. It's heavy metal. It's books. It's anything that threatens someone's perception of what reality should be is what we tend to place blame on. It's because it's easier than saying like, oh, I should do some research into this and maybe not jump to conclusions. We love to jump to conclusions.
Demonic imagery, completely understand why some people would look at that and be like, I'm concerned. The fact that you kind of can play as demons, though, again, I will make this caveat. Demons and devils do exist in D&D. And technically the GM has to run them if you're going to fight them. But it is also important to note, rules as written, they are evil. Like they can't be redeemed. Like we're already saying like they agree with your belief system of like, yes, demons and devils are evil and we need to destroy them. And again, we've talked about with mazes and monsters, the argument it makes is less of an supernatural argument and more of like, well, people lose their grip on reality. And it's like, people play pretend all the dang time. We have people who act for a living, who play pretend for a living before RPGs were like where they are now. They don't lose their grip on reality. Again, well, as we stated, it's just an easy scapegoat to go to.
Sure.
Now, we're going to go into religious stuff. Hi, fellow Christians. If you couldn't tell, by the way, I am a Christian, Charles.
I am too.
Yeah, I didn't want to state Charles because his faith is his own.
I appreciate that, but
Yeah.
I for sure am. You know. But yeah.
So we're going to approach this next section as, is there things that Christians should be concerned about when it comes to D&D, RPGs, and stuff like that? Because spoiler alert, there actually is. And this is true because I've talked to people. You have some own personal ideas of like how that's also true.
Yeah.
And so we're going to talk about that because we want to do our due diligence. Is D&D satanic? Absolutely not. Is it evil? Absolutely not. Can evil come out of it? Yes, much like anything else in the world.
Because again, you can go to any Reddit post.
Yeah.
You know, about problem players, and we've all dealt with them to some degree, and you understand that it's not necessarily the game itself, but it can but the game can bring that out in certain people. Maybe certain people shouldn't play these games because of their tendencies.
Yeah, so let's talk about the first thing. Demonic imagery. I completely understand people who are like, hey, I'm, apprehensive to wanting to even like touch that stuff.
Right.
I had some friends who were growing up as missionary kids in Argentina. Now, I don't know if they saw any occult activity while they were there. I've heard of other people going on missions, seeing occult activity coming back, and that changing a lot of how they viewed supernatural stuff. Okay. I completely understand if you're like, I don't even want to like touch that stuff.
Right.
Again, that my argument is then play a different RPG, right? Reskin it. So like, don't knock off all RPGs as a whole. Instead, just like, don't do that. If you want to play a fantasy RPG, just don't have demons in it, right? Don't be playing 40K because it's all demons all the time.
If you're uncomfortable playing a game that contains demons, it's fine to not want to play it. There's nothing wrong with that. Unless you're trying to understand more about this game. Again, there's nothing wrong with trying it out either, just to see if like what all the hubbub is about.
Yeah, and then in that situation, you just hopefully tell your DM, like, hey, I don't want this thing included. And if they're a good DM, they're going to say, yeah, okay, I'll avoid that. So, for example, Zach Brooks was having his bachelor party, and he's like, for my bachelor party, we're playing D&D. And so his now brothers-in-law, who were those same missionary kids, who were like, I don't know, it has demons in it, I'm not sure. They're like, you know what, we'll play for you. I got to GM it because, of course, I got to GM it because that's how that works, right? Even when it's someone else's bachelor party, I'm GMing.
You're the best GM instead of the best man.
Inherently knowing what their uncomfortable things were, like knowing where their boundaries lied, I made sure we didn't include that. So, like, you couldn't be a tiefling. They didn't fight any demons. I didn't allude to that. The warlock could still be there if someone felt comfortable playing it, but no one ended up picking it.
Yeah.
And the main person they fought was a dragon. And they actually ended up befriending the dragon. So that was kind of fun.
That's kind of wholesome.
Yeah. You can make it work. You can. And so if there's any preferences about that, and here's the fun thing, non-Christians in the space completely understand that because they're like part of the space is understanding like what are your lines and veils? What are you not comfortable or not comfortable with? We got to play Vampire the Masquerade with somebody, one of our own, both patrons and members of the Discord.
Yeah.
And they were very kind in being like, what are you not okay with? And I'm like, I don't want any sex scenes. And they're like, done, got it. We won't do that.
Yeah.
It was great.
Absolutely. And I think that's always an important thing to remember. If you're going to jam any game, check your players' comfort levels. I think going into any game, whether it's a one-shot, whether it's a campaign, you need to know what the boundaries are so you don't cross them. Kids on Bikes does a really good job of like driving it home at the beginning of the book. They're like, if you do not like this, or if your players don't like this, you should exclude from doing it. They very much, if you're a new GM, that's a great resource actually to use, even just the first part of it, to understand like kind of the psychology of how people work. Because whether or not you agree or disagree with whatever, if you're playing with people who have different beliefs than you, or you're not sure if they have different beliefs than you, that's a good place to start is, what are you uncomfortable with?
Yes.
It's a great question to ask.
Absolutely. So another reason Christians might want to maybe not play D&D or other RPGs is this idea of the themes of it, right? So D&D is inherently a heroic game. You're going to do the good thing.
Yeah.
There can be a problem where you can unintentionally or even intentionally make the themes even darker than that, where it's about more revenge type stuff, where it's about doing some bad things, whatever that may be. You can go to some really dark places. There's a member of our Discord, and I won't say their name, but we had a conversation where they said I was in a dark place and kept making darker and darker characters. And so that was my problem, is like, that's just where I went, is because I wanted more edgy, more dark, and that hurt them. And so they decided, okay, I can't play this anymore, and eventually came back around, and now they're in a much better spot. Or else, why are you in our Discord?
Yeah.
But they came around in a much better spot, and now from there, they are understanding where the boundary lies with them, and they're like making more hopeful characters.
Yeah.
There is a YouTube channel that I just recently subscribed to called Ginger's Creative Corner, and she brought up a video of like, hey, if you're a Christian author, there's some subjects you should not touch. Don't do anything spicy. Like, you can allude to the fact that stuff happens, but like, don't explicitly write about it. Again, the vengeance stuff. Like, if it ends where it's like, I completed my vengeance and now I'm fulfilled because I did an evil act, maybe don't do that. You can have a vengeful arc, but maybe at the end of that arc, have them suddenly realize the problem with vengeance or the downsides of it, right? Ultimately, having the hope at the end that is many of the reasons we are Christians ourselves.
Absolutely. Hope is a big theme. And actually, that was the theme of my wedding type stuff. It was the one word, like I was talking to my officiant about, he was like, what's one thing that you'd want this? I'm like, hope, because I think that's something all people need, whether you're a Christian or not. I think hope is something important, because especially in the world, that we're living in currently. Again, guys, the world, while it has changed, it hasn't as well. Hope is still something, it's very vital. Don't lose sight of that kind of thing. If you ever feel like you are, please reach out to someone like Genuine. I know this is not really is a kind of a PSA in general, because we know this kind of stuff can, if you become too involved with it, or if it becomes your obsession, then you may need to seek some kind of help.
And that's the thing, the last bit I wanted to talk about. You can get obsessed about this. There's a guy at my church. He is on staff at my church who I know plays RPGs. Fun fact, by the way, almost a good chunk of the church staff that I go to has played D&D specifically, one of them being a pastor. I know several other people. Savage Goose talked about how his pastor plays D&D, and he has several D&D groups because of church. So if you want to play group, join a church.
That's one way of getting people to go to church. But it's true. Again, everyone in our group is a Christian. Not that it's a requirement, but it is what our group just happened to be that way. And then I know there's a group at my church that started that they meet once a month every Monday. And Jeffrey was going to. I don't know if he still is, but I couldn't go to it because of my work, my wife's work schedule.
Yeah, so like you'd be surprised by that.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Obsession is 100% a thing that can happen. So the same guy at my church, he talked about how he got obsessed with Werewolf the Apocalypse specifically, and he just kept wanting to play it, and that's all consumed his mind. That's all he could think about. And again, going back to being specifically towards Christians, non-Christians are welcome to have that be their obsession, and many of them do, and that's okay. But as Christians, right, if anything replaces worshiping God, it's an idol, and that's bad, and it needs to be destroyed. And so if you're constantly thinking about like, well, here's the character I would make, and here's the RPG, and then, well, what do I do in this circumstance? Like, don't like, you might have a problem.
If you're a professing Christian, you have a relationship with Christ, then you should know that replacing him with anything is not a good thing. It's something that it's bad. If you're struggling with that, reach out to somebody. Again, there's people out there who can help you with these kind of things. Specifically, I remember my dad and my mom played Dungeons & Dragons with another couple. This is before my parents got divorced. Way back when, I think it was before even I was born.
Oh, wow. So during the Satanic Panic, probably.
Yeah, it was. Well, it might have been like right around when I was born too, because I think it happened in California where I was born. But it led eventually to, I think, the couple divorcing. And Dad, if you watch this, because he was subscribing, I don't know if he still is.
Fact check us.
fact check us if I'm wrong or wrong. But I know this. But I know even if that didn't happen, if I'm not misremembering this situation, I know that has happened where people will become obsessed. They'll fight over things like, oh, you didn't do what I wanted you to do, and or you mistreated me as a GM. Things like that.
Because like I play as it kind of characters where it's like, to me, the more important part is the story that we're telling.
100%.
And so like I'm willing to like screw over my own character or like mess up with like Charles and like have some tension there. But if you don't know those boundaries well enough, like Charles said, you can actually have real world consequences of like, I'm arguing with Charles, but Charles misinterprets that as Frank arguing, not the characters. And so that's another thing is, again, knowing that difference. So like that is kind of ironically where like reality and the fiction can mesh if you're not smart about it. There's a lot of ways to go about it. I always do voices, so that way people know for a fact Frank's in character because he's doing his voice. I've done it where groups wear hats. Like we are wearing the hat, we are in character. So that way when I take it off and I'm talking to you about something, you know it's in character. It's not in character, but when the hat's on and we're arguing, it's all happening in character. There's no bad blood. And again, feel free to talk to somebody after the fact and be like, hey, I just wanted to make sure, was I reading this right? Are you mad at me? We can't protest to everybody, but as Christians with each other, we know that because we have that bond, we can be like, hey, Frank, you were actually a little mean and I didn't appreciate that. I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. I'll adjust for later.
There's been times where Frank and I were like, we weren't sure and we talked to each other. Talk to your, again, hopefully the people you're playing with are your friends, or at minimum, they respect you and like you enough to keep you in the group. Talk to your party, talk to your GMs talk to your people. Again, once communication shut down, that's when everything gets shut down.
Yeah. And again, I think though, actually there's a lot of benefit for Christians playing D&D or RPGs that you get to sit down with people for a few hours and like really develop deep bonds. Every person who I played D&D with in my college ministry, I'm still friends with to this day, and like we keep in touch. We're constantly like interacting with each other, even though we all don't live near each other anymore. Like I am still like super involved with those people.
Well, and the crazy thing is that this hobby, lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, allows for people to have friends. I'm 42. I'm the oldest of our entire group, but I'm good friends with Frank. I'm good friends with Evan and Zach Dunkerton and Brooks and Jeffrey. Like I've made more friends because of this, doing this stuff.
Yeah. So ultimately, can Christians play Dungeons & Dragons or RPGs? Yes, absolutely. Are there some things that maybe get in the way of that? Sure. Maybe play a different game than D&D. There's so many. Check out our videos.
So many.
Or figure out where those lines are that you need to make sure that like we don't cross, or just making sure to check in on everybody and making sure obsessions aren't forming, stuff like that.
Again, we mentioned Lord of the Rings. They definitely have tabletop role-playing games. There's more than one, I think, out there.
Oh, the One Ring is pretty good. So
yeah, that's the one Peter got recently, right?
Yeah, I got it as well. It's very good.
Okay, cool.
Hopefully we've answered your questions. If not, feel free to leave a comment asking like, well, hey, but I've heard of this situation where this person got possessed playing the game. I'm curious to actually see if those things are true, because again, from my perspective, they're not. But let me know in the comments.
Yeah. So again, thanks again for watching the video and sticking around this long.
And what was your costume?
I was a moving target.
Unfortunately, that is the kind of humor you get from our channel.
Stay witty.
No.